Welcome to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld, and I have a special guest today. Well, they're all special. I love all my children equally, but this one is a little different in the sense that he's not per se a UX guy, although he's actually had a pretty interesting impact on user experience design. His name is Nathan Gold, and he is a professional speaker coach. All the speakers, or at least most of them, who speak at Rosenfeld conferences going back for 10 years, know Nathan because he has helped them take their ideas and take their ability to present and just turbocharge the bejesus out of it. And so, Nathan, you have had a really big impact on UX, whether you even realize it or not. Thank you so much for what you've been doing with our conferences and especially our speakers. And welcome to the Rosenfeld Review.
It is my distinct pleasure to be here. I don't normally get to be on a podcast like this where I'm a little bit outside of the typical podcast guest that you have, but I'll try to make it as interesting as possible because, as you said before, communications is something we all are all doing, and we can always improve.
Well, absolutely. And I think it was either Dave Malouf or Uday Gajendar, I can't remember who, connected us when we did the first Enterprise UX conference. That was actually in person in San Antonio in 2015. Mm-hmm. And, it was like, you got to do more with speakers. You got to do more with speakers than just have them show up. And so you're like this big part of practically a boot camp we do with conference speakers where they spend typically about 3 months prepping. They apply to speak and then they spend 3 months preparing to speak. And you get involved in that last month once their ideas are pulled together and have a fairly coherent arc, and you then really refine it. And I always tell people we have subject matter experts among us who help our speakers with their ideas, their professional ideas, their design ideas, but you're the subject matter expert when it comes to communicating those ideas. So how did you get into this position of being an expert on communications?
Well, thank you for the question. It really came from my desire to learn everything I could about being an excellent communicator, starting way back in high school. When I did my first adult education class, I wasn't supposed to be doing the teaching, but the upper level students and the teacher had a flat tire on the way back from dinner, and I was the only one there. The principal came in and said, "Nathan, you've got to start the class." So I just started teaching as a sophomore in high school, and that sort of gave me the itch to learn how to be an engaging speaker, an engaging communicator from an academic standpoint to start with. And then throughout my entire career, 40 years of doing demos, high stakes sales meetings where they need somebody to come in who's technical, but also can persuade and understands that we're not just feature, but we're really selling. And so I had my whole career in every company I worked for. I became the go-to guy to do the demo, the really high stakes demos or conference presentations, because I did everything I could to learn how to be better and better and better at the skill of communicating on stage. That was my focus. Now it's all about online, which is my favorite area to coach people because it's a kind of a bit different than what we do in person, and we take for granted that it's just a camera. So my whole career led me up to when I was 50 years old, just to pull the story forward, and I got laid off for the third time. And anybody in the U.S. knows you can have a job on Friday afternoon, come in Monday morning, they say, "Thank you, here's your box. We'll see you."
Well, they tell you nowadays, they just will let you know Friday night.
Yeah, probably, or Saturday morning via text or through social media. But all kidding aside, that was the third time that happened in my career. For whatever reason, it happened. And I just decided I was 50 years old and I never wanted that to happen to me again. And the only way to do that is to retire. I was too young. Or do what the books say. When you do something you love every day, it should never feel like a day of work, which is paraphrasing somebody who said that. And so I went back and forth with myself thinking, what do I love to do? I love to communicate. I love to be on the stage, helping people be better at whatever it is they're trying to be better at, whether it was teaching them a course of software use or how to be a skilled presenter. And I thought, I could teach people how to do demos because I'm a demo guy.
And you're
So
in the Bay Area. There's this place called Silicon Valley where
that's
I got to
right.
think that could be a pretty important skill to have.
It was indeed. There was a conference called Demo where people had 5 minutes on stage to present a live demo of a product that had not been announced to the world before. And I coached many people going through that high stakes situation. And then that dissolved into TechCrunch. And today you have TechCrunch is the big one that's coming up at the end of this month. But the point I'm just trying to make is those timed presentations is where I really honed my brand because there's so many communication specialists out there. If I'm going to help you, you need two things. Whether you pay me or whether I do it pro bono, you need a clock in front of you, a clock of 18 minutes or less, which means it's a TED Talk, it's a Shark Tank appearance, an investor pitch, a keynote speech, or a do or die sales demo that you just can't afford to lose, or maybe even a job interview. And the second thing you need for me to say yes, and I learned this the hard way, is what's coming up in your life? Do you have a compelling event like a Rosenfeld Media conference date of October 14th that they're not changing the date, so you can't move it and bing, 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 if they're moving the date, it eventually peters out from a coaching standpoint. So I love what you do. You say the date is this. We back it up a couple of weeks. We get people to turn in a video of their latest and greatest. I go through it literally with Loom and I leave them 10, 12 or more video comments, which is so joyful from my side because then they get to hear me and not just, okay, let me type a paragraph of what I think you did here and how you can improve it. So that's why I always complained in the early days when Loom was just getting their feet wet. If I can't do it in video, I don't want to do it because I've never met these people before. If I met them before, that's very different. Then I can write
Well, and
anything.
it's certainly hard to critique when
Yeah,
you can't, I mean, without, body language, facial
exactly.
expressions, it's a really difficult thing.
Exactly.
But
Tone of voice. Yeah,
I want to back us up for a moment, though,
sure.
just before we get too far away from your story, because I think
Okay.
there's a relevant question in there, and I think that question is this: um, so you're a high school sophomore, and you find yourself up in front of people, and it feels good, and you really thrive in that setting. On the other hand, I know you've also done tons of work to improve on your own abilities, and you studied it, and every once in a while I look at one of your evaluations of one of our speakers, and it's got some fancy scientific term for the, I don't know, doing too many ums and ahs or whatever it
Ah,
might be.
yes.
um,
Yes.
but it sounds like you are a natural, and I think most people aren't, or certainly wouldn't consider themselves a natural. I mean, public speaking is supposed to be like the most frightening thing
Oh,
on
yeah.
people's radars. It's like more frightening than death. And um, do you like, what is the role of being a natural in being an excellent, or giving an excellent presentation?
Yeah. Wow, that's a heavy question. I don't think I was ever really a natural. I had a love for wanting to engage with people, not just talk at them, not just show them things, but to have, I guess, to get them to feel what I felt about this incredible technology that I'm demoing to you, or how I feel about what you mentioned a moment ago. A linguistic disfluency is ruining your career. What is that? And too many of those people think all kinds of crazy things. And I convince people that it's something they can really take care of without medication or drugs. And when they fix it, it's like, my God, my life has changed because now I'm up in front of people. People who know me say, what happened to you? You're so much more confident. you're amazing up there, but it's the same them. It's just missing the uhs that we so um, abhor in speaking. By the way, the is really good and a needed tool when you're in a big debate with a group of people around the table
You have to
and
hold
somebody else
them.
go grab the exactly. So there
Yeah.
is a good use for it, but not when you are holding the microphone and nobody can take the floor away from you. So
Well,
when it comes to being a natural, Lou, I would say that I read every book I could read on the subject, lots of self-help books, been to a couple of Toastmasters club meetings, which really wasn't for me, a little too formulaic. It's great. I know people who have done fantastic things in it, and you learn a lot. And then I met an improv facilitator, and
hmm.
that was my secret in my early 20s. I worked for a software company that brought an improv facilitator in to get the whole group like right on the first day. And I got a chance to sit with him at dinner and talk to him about what he does. And then I saw what he did. And it was like, oh, okay, I need to learn everything I can learn about improv because that's how you learn how to think on your feet
Hmm.
and handle just about any situation. And one tip for your listeners, if you want to improve your skills, whether it's a formal presentation or just a peer presentation, or like we're doing here, we're just having a conversation, go to improv. Go to improv. It doesn't matter what they're teaching that day, what the theme is, online, in person. It's scary as all. I mean, it was so far out of my comfort zone every time I did it. And I've done them a few times. I freak out. I get so nervous because I know I'm about to learn something new, but it's so far out of my comfort zone. I'm not sure I even want to learn it.
Well, I mean, there's a question about whether we can learn if we are in our comfort zones in the first place. But,
I agree. No,
um,
I agree. I
well,
agree.
we're going to take a quick break in a moment. But before we
Okay.
do, I want to just kind of lean into Toastmasters
Okay.
versus improv. I mean, improv is definitely your thing. You seem to be recommending it for most people. Are there other really strong, I don't know what you would call them, schools of thought or practice that, or perspectives, whether you get it out of an improv class or a particular author's book or whatever, that can
Yeah.
really be a difference maker for the people you've worked with?
The two things, I go back to the two things, which is Toastmasters, because many corporations have Toastmasters clubs that they fund. You
Mm-hmm.
might have to show up early one morning or stay a little
Mm-hmm.
late one afternoon, but they're usually about an hour long meeting. You get to be around similar people who are all nervous and scared about how to present, and they learn, they grow, they become involved. You can go all the way up to a worldwide competition in Toastmasters, and you win a world championship as a Toastmaster. You have $100,000 speaking career in front of you.
Wow.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And they're all online. You should look at some of these short presentations that these world champions give. No notes, no slides. And it's mind boggling how well they do, even though it's very, very rehearsed, like memorized almost to the pause point. And that's what a
Okay.
good TED Talk would be anyway. You memorize it beyond memorization so that when you say it, you know you're delivering it with feelings. You're not just delivering words.
But I'm going to just remember, and you've never put it to me this way before, what you said earlier, which is the clock
Oh,
and the deadline. It's like macro and micro takes on time are the
yeah,
things that, in a way, are most important from your perspective. But we're going to
yeah.
take a quick break. After the break, what I'd like us to do is really lean into more of the practical tips and such. I think our listeners would really appreciate that. But you've got a lot of experience with people in the design field as presenters, maybe more than anybody on the planet, frankly, as
Mm,
far as speaker coaches go.
next to
So
you.
I'd like to. Well, no, no, no. You're the one who actually works with them. I'm a bystander, but
Yeah.
I'd like to, really kind of understand how UX people are as a category when it comes to communicating and what works, what doesn't work for them,
Okay.
and what their strengths
Okay.
and weaknesses are. If there is a pattern,
Yeah.
we're going to go right back to it and talk about that after the break. Everyone, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. We'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browser interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field, people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. Whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there, it's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting-edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Hope you like it. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. Talking with Nathan Gold, a fantastic speaker coach that has been working with all Rosenfeld speakers, well, most of them I'll say, but a large majority, some of whom are world-class speakers to begin with and understand the value of even getting better, and some of whom have never spoken at a public event once. And you take all comers, and they are all in a much better place thanks to your help, Nathan. They are almost all some flavor of UX person, whether they are researchers or service designers or design ops people or leaders, managers. It's the whole gamut of people in this field. And you've got a unique perspective on how they are as communicators. And I want to dig into that a little bit because we all kind of fancy ourselves as strong communicators because that's kind of a big part of what we do, whether we are communicating an idea to a client or communicating a brand to the public or communicating something like the value and functionality of a product to a user. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that we do, and maybe, and one other thing I think we do really, or we think we do well is translate. We are often the people who are translating, let's say, between a developer, some other technologist, and a designer, another kind of designer, or a product person, or whatever it might be. So we're often the glue in these teams that broker conversations. And yet, I'm sure you see some interesting patterns, both positive and negative, when it comes to these people as public presenters.
Most definitely. It's really been a fun decade watching the types of speakers that you bring through, because on the one hand, you try to choose good speakers to start with. I mean, the topic, sorry, it's about the topic, but then you try to find the best speaker on that topic because you know the better the speaker, the more the audience will appreciate what they're saying. and they'll appreciate more of who you are as a company, providing this solid nourishment content, I like to call it, versus empty calories. And so it's been fun all along the way. Now, I'll be honest, always, you provide occasionally, not occasionally, I will go back on that and say frequently, really great speakers. Like, these people are so well rehearsed and they do a lot of speaking, lots of podcast guests, panelists, live TV interviews. And they're some of my favorite people to coach. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. And then you have the rest of the spectrum, which goes all the way down to occasionally you have people who haven't been, holding the microphone for 20 to 25 minutes by themselves very often. So they're a bit more nervous Nellies, but the topic is amazing, right? The topic is amazing. That's why you're having them come in. So for some going to your conferences, they can use it as a great learning experience to take content that you have validated with your team that you believe the community needs to hear about. And then they get that launching pad to come in and try it and do it, whether it's in person or online. So for me, it's a joy to work with all of your speakers because I get the whole spectrum. And those people who read scripts. Yeah, I always generally have to break your people from having to rely on a script, even though they start with a script. But for me,
And thanks for that.
yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. No, I think the most important thing, if somebody's really going to commit to a script, and there are potentially reasons why it would be better to work with a script, but if the words are right there in front of you, these people don't understand that they don't have to read them. They have to perform them.
Mm.
And if they just got that through their heads, that's what teleprompting is all about. What do you think? The people on the news know what they're saying? Hell no. They don't look at that stuff before they walk in front of the camera. They look at a teleprompter and they know how to use their voices, where to pause, where to look, to communicate word for word what they're being told to read to the audience. But it doesn't sound like they're reading on occasion. And that takes time to learn how to do. And so if they have less than 2 weeks before the conference, I try to break them away from the script, create an outline for each slide, the 3 or 4 things you want to say on each slide, and tack little notepads around your camera. Slide 1, these are the 3 things. Slide 2, these are the 4 things. And practice with those. And eventually those things are going to fall down or you'll just throw them away because you won't need them.
Right.
Right. And that's my trick to getting people to get off the script. They know what they want to say. They just feel like, oh, my boss approved this talk and this script. I better say it the way it's written. And listen, we're none of us are Shonda Rhimes, right? We're not writing a TV series that in 3 years, something you say today is going to mean something in 3 years from now. So go a little lighter on yourself.
Well, it's just that point about performing the reading, what you're reading, just like I'm like thinking about it and thinking, well, I've never heard you say that, and I don't know how would I do that? And then I'm thinking, I don't know if this is a good sort of foot in the door with this approach, but many of us are parents who read to our children.
Right.
That becomes performance. That's right. I don't know if there's at least an analogy there, if not a direct.
Of course. It's a perfect analogy. When you read to your children, do you read in the blah, 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 blah before you'll fall asleep before they fall asleep? And I know parents who've done that. They fall asleep before the kid falls asleep.
All the time.
If you act it out, if you put some energy behind it, even if you're whispering, but the energy, the look on your face, all of that's coming across. That's what people just need to do with their script for the Rosenfeld or any other conference, especially in the virtual world. There's all kinds of tricks where you can have your script directly in front of you, your notes on your slide directly in front of the camera. So when you speak it, you're still looking at the audience and they don't have a clue that you're reading your script. And it's going nice and slowly, almost teleprompting yourself. There are ways to do that at a low cost today.
Well, what about, speaking of virtual, one of the things I always find is that a lot of our speakers aren't happy that they can't see the audience. So for
Oh,
us, our audience is attending via live stream on our website, but the speakers are in Zoom. And so one of the things I tell them from time to time is rather than present, think about like you're talking with someone more conversationally and think about who that might be. Like I've told people, take a photo of your friend, partner, someone you care a lot about, and put it on like next to your, like maybe right on the keyboard of your laptop, and pretend you're presenting to them. And I've had people say, I got you one better, Lou. I actually have, my spouse on FaceTime muted right there, and they're giving me thumbs up when I'm really
right.
making a good point or what have you. Is that are there a lot of tips like that that you're seeing for the virtual space?
Some very much like that. It is a shame that people uh, have to use that as a, I'll call it what it is. It's an excuse for not performing, right? But at the same time, there are things you can do to help that. And I believe your idea of a photo is a good one. However, you might have missed the obvious. Why don't you take a screen capture of 49 people in your next Zoom call, right? Or record a little bit of just the video and then give that to each of your speakers. Let them put that up on the
Mm.
screen and they'll see the Rosenfeld people from a previous conference as the picture or
Or
put
maybe
it in the
we just need to put the spouse give them a Zoom connection and
there
just
is
make sure they're muted.
there is something to be said for being able to see the audience. However, when it's a one-way conversation, like most of your speakers tend to take the full 20 minutes to do their thing and then 20, 25, and then the Q&A for
Hmm.
some afterwards. But if I was the kind of speaker that wanted to interact with my audience during those 20 minutes, I can still do that without seeing them by using tools like Slido and Mentimeter and others that not enough presenters use.
It's interesting
Because
you say that. I mean, like we had a lot of demand for that among our speakers. I'd say in the couple of years after the pandemic started, and now there's a little less interest in that. And I guess maybe it's become regularized. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
perhaps it may have become more commonplace, but the thing I love about it, whether it's commonplace or not, is that whether you're doing a PowerPoint or a Google slide and you're going through your slides, I can click a slide and up pops, hey, everybody in the audience out there, scan that QR code. You've seen it happen. Please just answer the question because I'm curious before I go on. I could go left or right now, and depending on your answer, I'll take it with direction. So then the audience feel, and things like that make the audience feel more involved, you know? And when you can just do that really quickly without having to download any software, everybody's got a smartphone in your audience, or they can click the URL that you slap into the chat for everybody
Hmm.
on the call, and boom, they answer the question. Now the speaker waits 3, 4, 5, 10 seconds, and they see how many people have responded, and they don't have to wait. They just keep going. Now, okay, it looks like 82% of you want me to answer number 2 first. Okay, let's make a change, and then it just shows how there are so many different ways of engaging with an audience beyond just that hook that so many people spend time on. That's where they think it ends. Hook your audience and everything will be fine. I don't think so.
Well,
A hook is a great way to start, but it's not the only time you want to get them involved.
so your mention of slides makes me wonder about whether I'm not going to ask what the best software is because
Oh,
that's a religious war right there. But
yeah.
uh, rather, I'm wondering if you think we should be using slides at all.
Oh, oh,
In other words, there's you can. I think a lot of us. I'm certainly guilty of this. All right, I got to give a talk. I'm going to start with making a deck.
yeah.
And like what I'm finding, I'm telling people now is like, actually, don't do that. Make an outline, and then think about what props, visual props, will help you give your presentation, and those will be your slides. But if you only have a handful of those, there's a risk of them just sort of staying up there and
Mm.
getting old and stale. Do you just do a few slides but pull them away when you're not directly referring to them? What's a kind of good way, especially in virtual, to not be captive to your presentation, your deck?
Yeah. Well, that's a fairly detailed question, but let's start with what a lot of people don't realize. When you share a screen in any of these software programs that you have your video on, normally you are pushed off to the side in a tiny little postage stamp. Stop doing that. And the way to stop doing that is you can actually use Google Slides, PowerPoint, and Keynote. And that's what all your presenters use. One of those three. Some use Canva, but aside from Canva, in all three of those products, you can take your webcam and put it on the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Let me let that sink in. So when you share your slides, your webcam is now on the slide in that big area that takes up 97% of the screen. So now your audience is going to be engaged automatically, but you're going to have to redesign your slides because you're going to need an area for wherever you want to put your camera. I've seen people take 1/3 for the camera and 2/3 for the content, and they stay on the side every single slide. And when they don't want any content anymore, they just they make a slide with the whole camera as the slide. So you
So
go
it just
click,
expands to fill.
It's exactly. So that little postage stamp over there, it doesn't matter. Now you're engaged. That would be the number one thing I recommend people do because they don't know that the feature's even there. But all three of those products, just look up for how do I put my webcam on the slide. The other is I do like your idea about making an outline. The problem with an outline, I would say for some people, is they automatically will start thinking linearly. And very often in the beginning of coming up with a talk, I want people to think freely. And so I encourage people to use mind mapping. Just the topic in the middle, and I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about this. Oh yeah, now I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then stop after you get everything down on a piece of paper in any order you want. And then you look at the paper and say, oh. And I've been using mind mapping since 1988. And whenever I have to do a new presentation, I still use it. And I can always count on, by the time I've dumped all my ideas on paper, the format of what I'm going to do almost lifts itself off the paper.
That's great. I mean, one of the things that, first of all, you were probably a big fan of Prezi.
Oh, loved it.
If anyone remembers Prezi, it was basically instead of a linear presentation, it was a mind map, as Nathan's saying. And nowadays, actually, lots of different tools are really make that really easy. I don't think there's any one in particular. Back in the day, Prezi was like billed as an alternative to PowerPoint and whatnot. And I don't know if you remember earlier this year, Designing with AI, we had Erica Flowers give a presentation, and totally that approach. And visually, it was one of the most interesting, engaging presentations that I think we've ever hosted. So, just jumping back for a minute, though, back to the nature of UX people and their strengths and weaknesses and what works best for them and what doesn't. What are there any other patterns you see and advice for this type of presenter?
Yeah. The one overall and overarching skill that I see your presenters come with is the ability to tell stories. They all seem to have a knack for being able to communicate the value of what they're trying to communicate to your audience via a story, not just a number. I mean, sometimes the numbers do the job, but they have a knack for being able to draw me in based on the story they're using or the example, in many cases, the use case that they're citing as a way to get me more involved. So it's not a preachy. They're all coached by your wonderful theme leaders to not me all day long for 20, 25 minutes. So it's about the audience. And by the time I see their videos, they're already focusing more on the audience, and I get them to do that even more because sometimes they just don't realize that it's not just a bunch of words and slides that they've put together and had their management approve, and now Uda is real happy with it. You're happy with it. And now they get up there and they just throw all these words and slides out of people. The presentation they're giving to people, I usually end every one of my final videos for your speakers by saying, now, think of what you're doing here as not just a bunch of words and slides, but as a gift to the audience. You spent all this time putting this great stuff together, these cool takeaways. These are gifts you are giving these people so that they can go home and become the heroes in their situation.
Mm-hmm.
Which goes back to that, make the audience the hero in your talk, not you. And I see people take that advice quite literally. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just tweaking some of what they say, making it more about the audience, makes their value much higher.
Well, by definition, we are at least supposed to be people who have empathy for other people, their situations, and are human-centered. And so I guess it's not surprising that this is a strength. And I like how you make the connection to the outcome as a gift and really as an experience. It is a designed experience. Nathan, we could keep going,
Yes.
but we do have to wrap up. But speaking of gifts, you know that we always have our guests bring a gift for our listeners. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, lay it on.
Okay. This is a gift that I have been giving out for about 8-9 years now, since I had discovered it. We've all heard of TED Talks and TEDx Talks, blah, blah, blah. But have you heard of the moth?
I love the moth.
Oh.
But I'm old. That's why I've heard of it.
It's what?
I'm old. That's probably why I've heard of it.
Well, I'm old too, but still, they've been around, I don't know, 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
This is not new. I mean, it's not a new group. They just haven't gotten the recognition of a TED. But I would like to let all of your listeners know that when you listen to the Moth podcasts, or you attend a Moth event in your local area, which is about $20, and it's once a month, you just look up the Moth in the town you're in and go and watch what happens up on stage. The uniqueness of the Moth is this. For my clients who are looking to be better speakers, better storytellers, TED is a good source. TEDx is a good source, but a better source is the Moth. Why? Because everyone who tells a story on the Moth is walking up to a microphone with no notes and no slides.
Mm-hmm.
And they're given 5 minutes to tell the story about the theme for that evening, which could be rock climbing, for whatever the theme is. And you tell any story you want to tell. You have 5 minutes to tell a story, 1 extra minute to run over, and then you're done. And they do 10 people. And these are all volunteers like you and me. We could go in there and put our name in a hat. And if we get picked, we go up on the stage. They give us 5 minutes. And then the audience ranks and rates. And then there's judges in the room. Well, the audience I don't think the audience ranks. The judges do their thing. And the top prize winner, if you want to go for that kind of thing. But it's really fun to just watch them in person, but listening to the podcast. You'll pick up on so many tips on how to tell better stories, how to be more engaging, how to be more enthusiastic, authentic, honest, real, compelling. Just listen to those people. I mean, stop doom scrolling and listen to the Moth. That's my gift to you.
That's a great gift. That is wonderful. And so are you, Nathan. Thank you for
welcome.
Doing so much good for our community by helping our community communicate its ideas more effectively. The demo coach, Nathan Gold, pleasure to work with you.
Same here.
And thanks for joining us today in the Rosenfeld Review.
It's been my pleasure. And I hope we have another 10 years to work together.
Hey, it's Lou. Thank you for listening to the latest Rosenfeld Review podcast. I really appreciate it. I would love to hear from you. And if you want to pop me an email, lou@rosenfeldmedia.com, tell me what you thought. Better yet, leave me the hell alone and post a review on your favorite podcast platform. Please feed the algorithm. It really does make a difference. We want to get the word out. If you like the word, give us a hand. And while I'm asking you for favors, don't forget, buy books. Support your favorite local independent publisher. We happen to be one, rosenfeldmedia.com. All those great UX books are there. So, thanks again.